MrBallen, welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Dude, good to see you.
Yeah, man. I'm in your new, well, it looks sort of the same, but it's upgraded. A new compound, new studio.
New
I was
color.
at the attic the last
Purple.
time. Huh?
Purple. We're
It is purple,
now.
yeah. It looks sort of dark, but it's purple. But dude, it's so beautiful. This compound is amazing. This
Thank
is
you,
so
man.
cool.
Well, it's I've been super excited to show you. So
It looks epic, dude. I've heard good things, and it lived up to it, man.
thank you. Thank you. Well, man, I'm pumped, dude. You've got a lot of good stuff going on now, but I thought it would be a really good idea, to get you in here right before Halloween, get some Halloween content. We're the best storytellers in the world. So, but yeah, man, I'm just pumped to see you. It's been what, probably about a year.
Yeah, the last time we were here, we were in the attic, and you were talking about coming to this place at the time. But I remember we arrived and like sprinted to the studio. We recorded, and then I went right back. It was like such a whirlwind, but that was a great experience, man. Good to be back here, man.
Yeah. So just a quick introduction, not that you need one, but former Navy SEAL turned master storyteller, captivating millions with tales of the strange, dark, and mysterious. You've got over 10 million YouTube subs. Wow, dude. Creator of the wildly popular MrBallen Podcast, which has redefined storytelling, a New York Times best-selling author. That's new since the last time. With your first graphic novel hitting the top of the charts, and the second one, Where Nightmares Live, fresh off the press. You just sent me that. Thank you. An innovator in content creation, launching new formats like Storytime with MrBallen on YouTube, a trailblazer in the podcast world, earning consideration for a Golden Globe nomination. Ugh.
You too, dude.
Yeah.
You as well. We both almost got nominated.
Isn't that fucking wild?
Dude, it's crazy.
Did you ever?
No, all the awards that like we get, it's people don't know this, but you shamelessly put in for your own awards. So I should win this award. And this is the first time that they're like, we've designated you could win this award. So that was cool.
Did you know that was coming?
No, I had no idea. I saw your name and I saw our podcast and I was like, that's amazing. Because I had no idea.
Dude? Two SEALs.
Look at that, dude. Just carving our own path post-service, dude.
Love it. Love it.
Man.
I love it. Are you going? Are you going to go no matter what?
I think that they're going to nominate like 6. So there's 25 of us, 25 shows. And I think it's like 6 get nominated, and then obviously 1 wins. That'd be pretty sick to get nominated, show up in like a flannel tuxedo or something on the red carpet.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, but I would definitely go to that.
That blew me. I had no idea that, I think this is the first year they're even doing podcasts. And I was like, holy shit.
Look at us, dude.
Wild.
Mainstream.
Isn't that
We're
crazy?
making it, dude. Yeah, it feels like totally insane.
Well, if I see you there, I'll see you there, hopefully. But all right, we're going to do some story time, some updates with you. But first, everybody gets a gift. Usually I give the gummy bears. I'm going to switch it up. We got these. You're going to like these, dude. And we got our campfire session tonight.
Yeah, dude. Look at this.
Vigilance Elite S'more Bites.
Dude. All right, and show the camera. There's like 700 cameras to show.
Yeah. Dude, you got to try those.
Much. I got the gummy bears last time. Those were excellent. I smashed them immediately.
I got you another thing too.
Yeah, I can see.
Last time I didn't get to do this because we were in a hurry, but I think you'll enjoy this one. So I got a buddy over at SIG. His name's Jason.
Wow,
huge fan of yours. I think you're gonna like. You got any guesses?
I think I can guess. Full SIG action, dude. Thank you so much.
You know what that is?
That's SIG 226.
That is the updated SIG 226X Legion.
Dude, this is freaking beautiful, man. Thank you.
You like it?
Yeah, dude. I've been meaning to get a 226 because that's what we shot in the teams. Obviously, I think they went to a Glock now. I don't know, but in the teams it was the P226. Dude, this is beautiful. Is this even out yet? Is this like the newest thing?
It's out. I think it is the newest. I don't know.
Dude, this is it's out.
I don't know. SIG cranks a lot of guns out, but
dude, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man, you're welcome.
Holy cow, man.
We'll have to break that thing in on the break.
Hell yeah, dude. Thank you so much. Well,
My pleasure.
I have a much lamer gift for you.
Oh, I love gifts.
It's not a sick pistol. But here you go.
What do we got here? Definitely some clothing in there.
There you go, dude.
And maybe a boot. I don't know.
I think you
And
already
a
got the
book.
book, but it's the new book. Little
Nice.
signed in the inside there.
Where Nightmares Live.
Yep. The new anthology.
Dude, I love this, man. Like this comics.
Yeah, dude. That's a labor of love for sure. Put those together.
Very cool.
Yep. And then the
When did this-
flannel.
Oh,
The flannel. So I gotta give you the. I don't know if you dabble in flannels. I obviously do. And I'm not sponsored in any way by this brand, but Faraday brand, which you may have already heard about.
I know about these
They
guys.
make the best flannels. And
Dude.
that to me, and if you see, I got you your own color there. So it's not like I'm not giving you like the red one where I wear. You can wear that in real life, and it's just normal.
you can wear that in real life. Dude, this is nice.
Dude,
Thank you,
and
man.
they don't wrinkle. You can just throw them in a bag.
Love it.
You know, so there you go. It's pretty equal to a sick P226.
Hey. I love flannels.
This is gorgeous, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's nuts, man. You know, I haven't shot since 2017. Like I got out of the
shot?
teams. I got out of the teams in 2017. Haven't
That's
shot a
like
gun.
8 years. You haven't shot a gun?
No.
Are you
no.
anti-gun now?
No, I just
It's okay.
No, I'm not. I just have not shot it. So I got out and I like dove into like entrepreneurship, you know, and like that's all I wanted. Because for me, my story is like I got medically retired in 2017, but the timeline was shifted pretty aggressively. It was like, hey, you know, you're going to get medically retired in part because of the injury I sustained in Afghanistan. I had some mental stuff going on, and they're like, yep, you're going to get med boarded out. But they gave me, I want to say it was like over a year was my expected, like, this is when you'll leave the military by date. But it just got moved way, way up really quickly. Still got medically retired. And so so for the folks who don't know, you get a retirement check. You leave and you have some level of income, but it wasn't a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I was suddenly out with kids and a wife and like no plan. I was like, oh, in a year I'll figure it out when I get out because my retirement date's over there. I'll figure it out. And so when I got out, I had to like, find a job. And it was sort of ironic. And in my effort to find a job for myself, I began like networking a lot and like meeting people in the city and like in New York. And I ended up sort of putting together these networking events with the help of this guy, Jordan, who I met in the city. He's a former investment banker, not a veteran. He's a civilian. And we put together these amazing networking events that were actually for me to like meet employers and like get a job. But we brought other veterans to these events. We brought other employers, and everyone's like, wow, what a great service this is. And nobody was approaching me to get a job because they're like, oh, this is his job. He runs this like networking event. And I ended up doing that.
You're like, shit.
And so I created a job that helped other people get jobs. And then shortly after that, I got into the MrBallen thing. And honestly, dude, it's just, there's another critical part of this. I sleepwalk like a maniac. And so my wife has always been like, I'm worried that you're going to like shoot me. And so like that, well, don't worry. I have a place to keep this. And I've been thinking about it. And so she has been anti-gun because did I tell you about my prolific sleepwalking?
I think you did.
I have. So this is according to ChatGPT. So this is not a true diagnosis, but I've gone to sleep studies. I've asked, I've seen sleep doctors and no one can figure out what's going on. Basically, I go to bed and within about 30 minutes of falling asleep, I am up. This is most nights.
This is the
most.
majority of nights.
Okay, that's probably a stretch. It's at least 2 or 3 times a week, at least. I wake up and I'm in this half stupor. I sleep by myself. I have alarms set to the room that I sleep in. That Antonio is here, who's my security guy. He sets special alarms on the doors that lead out of the house from my room. So if I bolt in at night, he's alerted to it. And so I jump out of bed and I start running, screaming, what the fuck is going on?
Are you serious?
Dude, it's crazy. And so to me, it's so normal that I'm like, oh, like I was doing this in the teams. Like in Afghanistan, I was doing this, but like,
I don't think that's
know how I
supposed
got
to
in.
happen.
So I get out of the military and that was like the one thing my wife was like, you can't have a gun in the house. You're going to like do something crazy with it. So it's a combination of get out, full civilian, full entrepreneur. But it's funny. I was actually going to say to you, like, it's the one thing that I have let completely fall off is just shooting. And like, I was going to ask you, like, how often are you shooting? Like, is this like a thing you do every day? Because I feel like I want to reincorporate shooting into my life, because it's just something that I haven't done since 2017.
Well, we'll start that today.
Dude, I'm probably the fucking worst shot ever right now, but I want to
Good.
get back
I'm
into
not any
it.
good either. In fact, I don't really, I love shooting guns, but I'm not really into like all the shit we used to carry in the SEAL teams. You know what I mean? And the ARs and like black.
Yeah.
It's all good. I like them, but what I really like now is like the old Western shit, like revolvers
nice.
and lever actions.
Yeah, that's cool.
Dude, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
But yeah, but also like, yeah, I mean, when I left, you know what I mean, and started, you know, my entrepreneur journey, you know, it started with tactics. You know,
I remember watching videos of you out in the forest talking about your everyday carry. They were going like super viral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to shoot for that, and then when I, you know, got tired of that shit, started the podcast. It kind of fell off until, well, it didn't kind of fell off. It fell off, but then we moved here, you know, and we got a shooting range right off the back
awesome.
patio here. So, but I'm still pretty rusty.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember in the teams, there were dudes that just like what they did is they like really kept dialed in, and you can just see it when a dude's shooting a lot. It's just they're so on point, they're so good. And for me, I was good enough to pass the test because I was a team guy, you know. But I didn't have that like desire to like really become a great shot. I think I was like very average, if not below, but enough for the teams. And now it's like it became this daunting task over time. Then I'm like, well, if I want to get back into it, I gotta do it like discreetly too. I can't like go to an instructor and be like, yo, I'm a former Navy SEAL. I gotta learn how to shoot again. So I was gonna ask you, like, oh, I want to shoot with you.
Oh shit.
Yeah, dude.
Well, we'll do that on the break, but
Oh, yeah.
dude, Halloween's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Last year we brought on an exorcist. It was awesome.
That's cool.
But you are the storyteller. So let's hear a story that you think goes along with Halloween, something that's going to
Yeah.
scare the shit out of people.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about it. So I knew coming here, that was a big part of this, is having some stories. And I would say this story I'm going to tell you is, so I did it actually on the live tour. I don't think you heard this one though. This one was added in. Gets a big reaction from the crowd. So I've told this in front of, you know, thousands of people. And this one just, it's a great story. It's a great story. It's a fucking horrible story, but it is a great story.
It's a fucking horrible story, but it's a great.
All right. So in 1986, there's this family.
Is this real?
This is totally real.
This is a legit.
Totally real. Yes.
Okay.
There's this guy named Frank, and he's got two daughters. He has an older daughter. This is 1986. This is in Pepperell, Massachusetts. So I think it's Western Mass. He's got two daughters. He's got a 15-year-old daughter named Tina and a 9-year-old daughter named Karen. And this is in, again, the fall of 86. And around this time frame, this family, the Bowens family, they had suffered this really awful loss. So Frank's wife and the two daughters' mother had passed away pretty unexpectedly from cancer. So she came on suddenly, she passed away, and it was this horrible thing. And so this has happened within a few months of when the story picks up in the fall of 86. However, the part of the the dynamic here is that the wife, the mother, had been, a working mom, and her income had been meaningful to the household. So the blue collar family, Frank and his wife's income were how they floated the family. And so when she passed, not only is there, all this grief in the household, of course, but there's also like a practical issue. Frank now was 50% of the income is gone, and he needs to find a way to provide for his family. And so in the immediate aftermath of her passing, Frank began taking all these extra shifts at work just to make ends meet, just sort of what he had to do. But as a product of that was that Tina and Karen, who were sort of just old enough for this to be okay, as they're dealing with this incredible grief of losing their mom, who they were very close with, they began finding themselves alone quite a bit at their house, just alone, putting themselves to bed while their dad is out, taking late shifts at work. But they accepted this. It is what it is. Their dad loves them, and he's just trying to do the right thing for the family. So with that as the backdrop, there was this night where Frank was out at doing one of these late shifts. This is again sometime in like September of '86, and the girls are home. And the girls, the death of their mom is so new in some ways that they haven't quite moved to the point of acceptance. They still almost feel like mom's gonna come around the corner. Like it just feels unreal that she's gone. And they just felt desperately that they just wanted to have one more interaction with their mom. It's like they felt it in their bones. They just missed her so badly. And so with their dad gone for the night, the older girl, Tina, the 15-year-old, she asked the younger girl, Karen, hey, do you want to get the Ouija board out and try to contact mom? So for those who don't know what a Ouija board is,
never a good idea.
Yeah, a Ouija board, it looks sort of like just a rectangular game board, and it has A through Z on it, A, B, C, D, all the letters of the alphabet. It has 0, up to 9, all the digits. And you put this, it's called a planchette. It's like this little dial that has felt tips, 3 prongs, felt tips that it sits on. And it's got a little viewfinder on the top of it that you can look through. It's like a little looking glass down onto the board. And when you use the Ouija board, if you believe that this thing works, you and whoever else, let's take Tina and Karen in this instance, they would rest their fingertips. They'd typically sit on opposite sides of the board. They'd rest their fingertips on the edge of this planchette. And the idea is you don't move the planchette at all. You just like rest your fingers on the planchette. And if there's, spirits in the room, the idea is they will You ask a question with your fingers. Tina or Karen asks a question, hey, mom, are you here? Their fingers are on the planchette. And if there's a spirit in the room, the idea is they will travel through your body and they'll manipulate your fingertips and they'll move the planchette around. Part of the reason why Ouija boards have become so popular is it's so easy, if there's a group of you, to be the one person that sort of subtly moves the planchette and give the impression that like there's a ghost in the room. So it is what it is. If you believe it or you don't, people say that, Ouija boards are a way to talk to the dead.
What do you believe?
I don't know. I don't know if the Ouija board works. I think that there is.
You tried one?
I have tried, yeah.
And shit. Where'd you try it?
So we had one growing up. My sisters and I would always get out the Ouija board. And now that I'm thinking about it, that's kind of weird. Like little. Me and my sisters, as the young children, are having seances in our basement. So actually, I'm open to it. I'm open to it. So anyways, these two, they're like, okay, we want to try to contact mom. And so they get their Ouija board and their little planchette and they go down into the basement and they literally set up like a seance. The basement is just like this blank slab basement. There's like a washer dryer. There's a couple of tools on a shelf, but it's like a blank, concrete slab basement. And they put their Ouija board down. They light some candles and they sit down and they put their fingers on the planchette and they begin asking questions, like sort of to the room, hey, mom, if you're in here, give us a sign, and they look at the board and they're hoping it's going to move, but, nothing happens. And over the course of the next hour, these girls tried every combination of question that they could ask, to try to inspire the spirit of their mother to come in here and talk to them. But no matter what they did, they couldn't get the planchette to move. And in some ways it was sort of devastating. again, they're grieving the loss of their mom. They haven't really come to terms with it. And this felt like hope. Mom's going to come through. We know it. She loves us, but nothing happens. And so they end up, packaging up the Ouija board, and they go back upstairs, and they go up to the second floor where their bedrooms are. And by this point, their dad, Frank, he's still at work. He's going to be out, past the time they would go to bed. And Tina's the sort of older, more responsible one, and she's okay. We need to go to bed. And so the two, they go up to the second floor. They get ready for bed, and they go to their respective bedrooms. And so they get in their beds. The lights are off. The house is quiet, and they try to go to sleep. But after maybe only 20 or 30 minutes of laying in bed, they're both still awake, but they aren't aware of the other. They're in different rooms, but they're both awake. There's this tapping noise that begins to start in the house. And, at first it was sort of subtle, and both girls would report hearing it, but it wasn't clear if the tapping noise was, just a house sound. Houses make noises. Is it something outside? Is it the wind? Whatever it was. But more than that, it was kind of hard to pinpoint if it was coming from the floor they were on, the first floor, even the basement. Is it outside? It just sort of felt like this almost omnipresent tapping sound. And it wasn't rhythmic. It wasn't consistent. It was sort of sporadic, but it was constant. So there's a tapping sound that's sort of just irregular, but constant. And so it caught their ear. And So Tina, the older one, she sort of is, just doing her best to forget about it and just try to go to bed. But Karen, the younger one, the 9-year-old, she can't sleep. She starts feeling, worried about this tapping sound. They've just done a seance in the basement, and now there's tapping in the house. She's a kid, it's scary. And so she leaves her bedroom, and she goes, right over to the next room where Tina is, and Tina's in bed, and Karen goes in, and she's like, hey, Tina, do you hear the tapping sound, in the house? And Tina's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, it's no big deal. But the two, they're just sitting there, and Tina's trying to reassure Karen, but the tapping, it sort of begins to intensify a little bit. And Tina, she has this almost epiphany. And she's like, as she's trying to tell Karen not to worry about it, the tapping is getting louder. And she's like, what if that's Mom? We were just trying to contact her. What if the seance worked? What if Mom did hear us? Maybe she's here. Maybe she's in the house. Maybe she's trying to get in touch with us. Maybe her tapping is her trying to signal us in some way. And suddenly that hope that was dashed as their Ouija board session, their seance hadn't worked, it's all back now. They're suddenly riveted with this idea that the sounds they're hearing could be their mom, who they just want their mom back so bad that they're prepared to believe anything at this point. Like, oh my God, it's Mom. And so Tina and Karen, they get out of the bed, and they walk into the hallway. Now, to this point, they still can't quite tell where the tapping is coming from, but by the time they got into the hallway, it's clear it's not coming from the floor they're on. It's coming from somewhere downstairs. And so they go into the dark stairwell in the second floor hallway, and they're looking down into the stairwell, I should say, that kind of banks around down to the first floor. And all they can hear is just this periodic tapping, and it's coming from somewhere downstairs. And the two girls are standing at the top of the stairs, not really sure what to do. And Tina, the older one, just suddenly goes, hey, Mom, is that you? The tapping stops for a second, and then they hear a rhythmic, and then there's silence again.
Oh, shit.
So there's a clear response. And the girls, they think at first that it's something maybe it's coincidence. It can't be this immediate. It can't actually really be her. And so Tina again says, Mom, really? Is that you? And this time even louder. There's 3 taps that come back from somewhere downstairs. Clearly, someone is in the house, and they're interacting with the girls, and their dad's not home. But amazingly, the girls, remember, their mind state is, it's Mom. This is a good thing. We're excited about this. To most children, this would be horrifying, but for them, in this part of their lives, this was confirmation that their mom is here. And it gave them an enormous amount of courage and happiness, frankly. And they're like, let's go down. Let's go downstairs and see what's going on. Let's see if we can, maybe Mom's down there. Who knows, right? Let's go down there. And so down the steps the girls go. And as they're going, they're asking more questions. And they're starting to sense that the tapping, which is louder now, they can kind of tell that it's not somewhere on the first floor. It actually sounds like it's coming from the basement, potentially. There's a door in their kitchen on the first floor that leads down to the basement. And it sort of sounds like the tapping's coming from down there, maybe even coming on the backside of that door. But they're going down the stairs and they're firing off more questions like, Mom, like the questions they're asking are all over the place, but they're asking these questions and each time they're getting that 3 taps in response. Like they're sure it's Mom. They get to the kitchen and now they've pinpointed the tapping is definitely coming from the basement. The door is shut to the basement. They go to the door, they open up the basement door, and they're looking down into like this stereotypically, terrifying basement. It's pitch black. It's wooden, creaky stairs. They can't see anything down there. And despite how confident they were that like, this is Mom, this is where they drew the line. They're not prepared to go all the way into the basement where it's like, that's kind of horror movie territory. But they stood at the top of the stairs. And for an hour, they asked their mother questions. In their mind, they're talking to their mom. They're speaking into the basement and they're asking all sorts of questions. Do you miss us? Tap, tap, tap. Sometimes they'd get like 4 or 5 taps and they began to think that maybe that meant no and 3 meant yes. But they had this whole thing where they're like, it's Mom. It worked. The seance worked. But after an hour, their dad's still not home. They've had this unbelievable experience that they've chalked up to their mom. But then it just kind of stops. There's no more tapping. No matter what questions they ask, it just sort of stops. And the girls, they stayed awake, because they're sort of jazzed up by what's happened here. And around the time that the tapping has stopped, there's no more responses. Frank, their dad, comes home and he's surprised to see his kids awake in the kitchen. And he's like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, you wouldn't believe it, Dad. It's Mom. We got the Ouija board out. We had a seance. They kind of explain the whole thing that happened, but they're so excited about it. And they're like, Dad, it's Mom. We were talking to Mom. We know it's her. It has to be her. And now Frank also is in the process of going through what is this unbelievably bad situation for him. He's lost his wife. He has to work all these extra shifts. He can't be around his daughters. He's worried about his kids. And he's seeing his kids light up and be so excited at this idea that they're talking to their mom, that even though he does not think for a second that there's truth to what he's telling him. He doesn't think that there was tapping. He doesn't think their mom was in the house. He thinks that these are kids who've lost their mother and they've come up with some coping mechanism, which is hearing, random house tapping sounds, and they've convinced themselves it's their mother. And so without any hesitation, he just goes, I bet that was your mom. That's wonderful. She's looking out for you. She'll always be looking out for you. Your mom she's here with you now. She'll always be here with you. Your mom loves you. And the girls are so pleased. And they run up to bed, so excited to, go tell their friends the next day. So they go to bed, and Frank, frankly, doesn't think much of it. He just is like, my kids are coping with a terrible tragedy. And if they want to do that, that seems harmless enough. So he goes to bed. Over the next few days, the tapping sounds would continue, except they would only be heard by the girls. Frank would never hear the tapping sound. The girls would, they'd hear it coming from the basement. They'd call their dad. He'd listen, and there'd be no more taps. It was like they would disappear when Frank showed up. But oddly enough, the tapping was no longer just happening at night and just in the basement. The tapping was sort of happening all over the house. It would happen outside the front door. It was in the kitchen. It was in the girls' bedrooms. It was everywhere. It was like the tapping it was always that tap, tap, tap when they were talking to it, but it was like all over the house. But again, every time they'd hear it, Frank, wouldn't be privy to it. He couldn't hear it. Frank's still telling himself that this is a relatively healthy coping mechanism, that it's not that big of a deal. But what ended up happening after about 3 days is the girls, they had convinced themselves that this is Mom, right? This is a good thing. Well, by the 3rd day post-seance, when the tapping is happening a lot, the tapping had sort of migrated primarily to the girls' bedrooms. And it was also happening mostly at night now. So by the 3rd day, it's sort of like all the tapping is happening in their bedrooms. And it's namely under their bed. Like they would hear the sound underneath their bed. And for the girls, they began to wonder why their mom would do that, because it just sort of feels like almost stereotypically terrifying for a kid. Something's under your bed. And they began to get this feeling that maybe this isn't Mom. Maybe our seance worked, but we didn't bring Mom's spirit into the house. Maybe we brought something malevolent or just something other. We don't know. And so they're starting to question if this is really a good thing or not. And that's what Frank picked up on. It's been a few days. Frank picks up on that. The girls no longer view this as a good thing. And it's disrupting their sleep. And they would hear the tapping in the bed, and Frank would come into the room. There'd be nothing there. He had no explanation. But the girls are really spooked. And so it was at this point that Frank began taking a harder stance with his girls. Around the 3rd night, he just said, look, I know you're going through it right now, and I understand that you're dealing with a lot with your mom, but this isn't okay. This, whatever you guys believe you're hearing with this tapping sound, I'm telling you, you have nothing to worry about in this house, but it's not happening. Okay. You're working yourself up over nothing, and you need to stop it. And if you can't, I understand, but we're going to have to seek out professional help, like grief counseling or something, because it's not healthy for you all to be living in fear of a ghost in your house. That, it's just not okay. The girls are furious because they believed up until the third night that their dad accepted that the taps were real and that maybe it was their mom. And now he's sort of come out and been like, I don't believe you, and forget about it, or else you're going to go to therapy. Mm-hmm. And so it sparked like real issues between the daughters and the dad. The dad's really trying to do his best, but there's real tension here. So following this confrontation, if you will, between Frank and his daughters, or whatever you want to call it, the tension between them remained. And for the girls, they felt like they didn't have their dad's support anymore. And they started to really be fearful of even being in their house. Like they didn't even want to be home anymore. It's like, it's terrifying when you're there. You hear these tapping sounds. And so over the next several days, so now we're looking at like, a week after the seance. So about a week later, the girls are finding every excuse to sleep over at friend's house and just be out of their house. And, they're kind of jarring with their dad about like, did the tapping sounds happen or not? But when they're home, they hear the tapping sounds. And so fast forward about a week post seance. And on this particular night, the girls didn't have a place to go. They didn't have a friend's house to crash at. Their dad was out working a late shift. And so they were there in their home that night. There's nothing they could do about it. They had to go to bed and just deal with it. And the tapping is happening, pretty consistently at this point. Not literally at this point, but it's happening all the time. And so they're just like, okay, we just got to get through the night, whatever. So the girls they're having their dinner in the kitchen. Their dad is at work. And at a certain point, the tapping starts, and it's coming from the basement. It's not the 3 rhythmic tappings. It's just this kind of periodic tapping that sort of was the precursor to they could ask questions and get those rapid responses. And Tina looks over at Karen and she's like, Dad doesn't believe us. And, the last week, every time this would happen, like he would never hear it. He doesn't believe us. Like we have to look into this. Like he's not going to look into this. We have to. And so there's active tapping in the basement. The door to the basement's right off the kitchen. And Karen is starting to get the sense that Tina's saying, we need to go into the basement right now and go look. Because they hadn't done that yet. They had never really actually investigated the sound.
Would you have gone down there?
Yeah.
Would you really?
As a child? No. No. I'm sorry. As an adult, me now? Yes. Yeah. As a child then? No way. No way.
I'd probably send my wife down.
You get in there. Check it out. And so Tina, is looking at Karen, who doesn't want to do this, but Tina grabs a knife off the kitchen counter and she's like, we have to go into the basement. We got to see what's down there. And Karen, she doesn't want to be up here alone. And so she's trying to tell Tina, like, no, we can't go down there. But she's like, fine. And so she gets behind Tina, and Tina goes over to the door, and the tapping's happening downstairs. And they open up the basement door. And the tapping stops right away. As soon as the door opens, the tapping stops. It was going all up until that point. Tapping stops. And down the stairs the girls go. They walk down into the basement. And the light in the basement was one of those pull string lights you have to get to in the basement. And so it's dark in the basement. And they're like wandering through this dark basement to get to the pull string. They get to the pull string, they pull it, and they're both like totally on edge. And they're looking around, and they would later say, on some level, we were like, there's got to be some logical explanation. Like, for example, a raccoon got into the house. Wouldn't explain the responses we're getting with tapping sounds, but as a human being, we will go to great lengths to convince ourselves that we are okay in moments of crisis. A lot of times before you kind of cross the threshold into, oh my God, this is a horrible crisis, your brain will say, no, everything's fine. Everything's good. Like, it's just a raccoon. And they're kind of hoping for that. But they get down there, they pull the light, and Tina's got her knife and Karen's tucked up behind her, and they're looking around the basement. And I told you before, there's nothing in the basement. There's a washer and dryer. There's a wood shelf, a shelf with some tools on it over here, but there's not even storage down there. It's just this vacant open space. There's nowhere to hide, and there's nothing down there. It is an utterly vacant space.
There's got to be a hole in the floor or something.
Well, they looked all around the basement and there's nothing there. They're looking for where a raccoon could have gotten in. But it's as they're looking, it's dawning on them that there isn't a clear answer here. We've definitely heard the tapping. Dad hasn't. We have. And we're down here at the source of the tapping in many ways, and there's nothing. And they've sort of mentally shifted to it could be malevolent. And so they're having this big fear response. They're like, okay, we can't be down here. This is just horrifying. And so they turn and begin going back upstairs. And as they're walking up, they notice there's writing on the inside of the stairwell wall leading up to the first floor. They're walking up the stairs, and right on the wall, on the basement steps, written in red is, "I'm in your closet. Come find me."
Oh, shit. Simply Safe is the security sponsor I trust with my property. Can a home security system really call itself security if it only responds once somebody is already inside? There's now a way you can actually stop someone from entering your home. Most security systems only react after someone breaks in, but Simply Safe, it can stop crime before it starts. Their AI-powered cameras can help detect threats outside your home, and real agents step in immediately, talking to intruders, sounding loud sirens, and triggering spotlights even if you're not there. This is how you stop a crime before it starts. That's real security. I trust Simply Safe to help protect what matters most to me, and it gives me peace of mind, especially with the features Simply Safe offers, like the app, cameras, and rapid response. There's no contracts, no hidden fees, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. You can try it and see the difference for yourself. Right now, my listeners can save 50% on a Simply Safe home security system at simplysafe.com/SRS. That's simplysafe.com/SRS. There's no safe like Simply Safe. I would do anything to protect my family. But there's always that one worry in the back of my head. If I have to use my firearm in self-defense, who's got my back? The truth is, the justice system isn't always just. I've uncovered story after story of corruption. Good Americans who did the right thing, defended their families, and yet still had their lives turned upside down. And that's why I joined USCCA, the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. They've helped thousands of responsible gun owners with legal preparedness, training, and support before and after a self-defense incident. If you've watched my channel long enough, you know I've always said preparedness is more than just training and gear. It's a mindset. And because crime is on the rise in America, which we can all see, you'll need more than just a gun to protect yourself. You'll need a plan. Go to uscca.com/SRS right now to learn more. That's uscca.com/SRS, and see how a membership can give you and your family that peace of mind you've been looking for before, during, and after a self-defense situation. Once again, that's uscca.com/SRS. Do it.
And so the girls see that, and obviously they sprint out of the basement. They bolt out of the house. They were very friendly with their neighbor. They run to their neighbor. They're banging on the door. It's late at night. The neighbor opens the door. They're like, "What's going on?" The girls are hysterical. They're like, "Oh my God, there's a ghost in our house. Like, there's writing on the walls." And, you know, the neighbor is aware of the fact that they've lost their mother and like understands that this is a very difficult time for them. And so no judgment passed, has no idea what's happening, just says, "Get in the house. We're going to wait for your dad. You know, you stay here and we'll wait for your dad, you know, and he'll know what to do." And so the girls, they're just happy to be away from their own house. Frank, not that much longer, comes home, and the neighbor sees him pull into the driveway, immediately flags him down, and, you know, as gently as he can, he explains like, "Hey, so your daughters are with me. They're fine. I don't know what's going on in your house. They seem very spooked about something to do with writing on the walls in your basement. I don't really know, but they're very shaken up. They're at my house right now. Just want you to know." And Frank is like, okay, like he knows what this is about. Like, this has been going on now for a week. And really all he's thinking is, I guess I better plan for, you know, therapy or something for my kids. And so he goes and he tells his daughters like, "Okay, I'm here. I'm going to go check the house. Okay, you stay here. I'll go check it out and I'll talk to you guys." And so he goes to his house. He goes inside and he searches his whole house, and there's nobody there. He goes into the basement, and sure enough, written on the wall, it does say, "I'm in your closet, come find me," but it's written in ketchup. Like it's someone put it there, but his first thought is my daughters clearly put it there. They're the ones sort of playing into this delusion here. This is like a really unhealthy thing they've done, and now they're like, acting out this whole thing with the neighbor, and it's becoming this big drama. Like this is clearly some huge, grief response. And so he leaves the house, not concerned in the least that this is like a real problem. He's thinking this is an issue of my daughters. Like my daughters are struggling here, and they need professional help. And so he comes back over to the neighbor's house, and he tells his girls, like, look, I know you're dealing with some tough stuff here, but enough is enough. We're going to start grief therapy, like literally tomorrow. And the girls, they did experience what they just experienced, and they don't even know what to make of it. I mean, now it's really gone from, this sort of tapping sound in the house to something very concrete, like almost a threatening message left that clearly was designed for them to find. But their dad doesn't believe them. They feel trapped. Like, what do you even do? And so the girls are sort of resigned. They've been worn down by this, and they're just like, fine, like, we'll find dad. We'll do therapy. And so the girls literally, like, I think it was the next day, started therapy. And wouldn't you know it, over the coming several weeks, there was no more tapping in the house. It was like everything went back to normal. Peace returned to the house, if you will. The girls were still terrified to be in the house, but even when they were alone, the tapping was gone. And, for Frank, he felt like, obviously, you're in therapy now. It's always been that. It's nothing more. It's been in your head, But it wouldn't stay that way. So 1 week after the seance is when the writing on the wall showed up, the "I'm in your closet, come find me," and that's what starts the group therapy session. The following 3 weeks, it's like peace in the house returns. So at the end of those 3 weeks, so now effectively 1 month after first contact, if you will, the seance that the girls had at the very beginning, we're about 1 month after. At this point, they haven't forgotten, they, as in Frank, Tina, and Karen, have not forgotten about the tapping. They haven't forgotten about the weird stuff, but it's no longer a thing, right? And they've sort of returned to normal life. And on this day, this is like in October, I think at this point, of 1986, Frank had taken Tina and Karen and one of their friends, a girl named Kathleen, out to get some ice cream. And so they went out. This is in the evening time. They'd gone out. They got ice cream. They're just living their lives, sort of like moving on with life. And they come back to the Bowen household, where they were going to spend the next hour or so before Kathleen had to go home. And when they got home, Frank went up to the front step of his house, and he's about to open his door when he realizes that there's something off about his house. He looked in through the window, and he saw there was a couple lights on inside the house that he just didn't remember leaving on. But this is not like such a big red flag that he's like, oh my God, don't go in the house. It's more like, oh, that's weird. I don't remember leaving those on. He was pretty conscious, I suppose, of leaving his lights off and on whenever he left the house. And he sort of looked back at his daughters to maybe see if maybe they were going to say, oh, we left those on, but they don't even pick up on him thinking about this stuff. He puts the lock in, and he puts the key in, he unlocks the door, he opens it up, and it gets even weirder. Because now he sees that there's a radio that's on that was on really quietly that he can now hear, and also a TV is on. TV's on in the back of the house. So like some lights are on, TV, radio, and he also couldn't help but feel like some of the furniture in the first floor had been moved, but like slightly. Only so much that, if you lived in a place, you would notice the difference, but that's it. If you didn't live there, you wouldn't have picked up on it, but things seemed a little bit out of place. And so Frank, he sort of turns to Karen and to Tina and Kathleen, their friend, and he's like, hey, did you leave the stuff on? And the girls, by the way, at this point, they're seeing these things, and Tina and Karen are immediately back in that, oh my God, it's happening again. It's this thing, whatever it is. And they're like, we didn't do that. And so they're immediately terrified. Kathleen has been fully read in by Tina and Karen. They've heard about all the things they saw. She believes it fully. And so the three girls are like horrified. Frank doesn't really know what to make of this, because remember, he believed that his girls were sort of behind this delusion. That's what he would refer to it as. It's just a delusion, and therapy was the way to get out of this thing. So he's like, I think that's still true, but I also have to deal with the fact that this is hard to reconcile. they were with me. How could they have done this? And they seemed genuinely scared. And so he hasn't really decided as he's walking into the house how he's going to react to this. He's like looking at his girls who are all scared, tucked up behind him, and sort of looking at the scene like, what's going on here? And so he does this like half invested search of his house where he's not really sure how he feels about it. He sort of walks around the house. He turns off the radio, turns off the TV, turns on the lights because now they're home, but there's nobody there. He searches the first floor, goes to the second floor. The girls are right behind him the whole time because they're so scared. They go down in the basement, and no one's down there. The house is quiet. No one's there. But after he finishes the whole search, he realizes there's actually one room that he hadn't checked yet. Just when he had first walked in, there's this room right off the front door. It's like the front sitting room that overlooked the front of the house. And just because he sort of half began the search, wasn't really planning it, he just sort of overlooked it. And so he has one more room to search. It's this front room of the house. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to go search that room. And so again, he searched the whole house. Nobody's there. He walks into this front room. And when he walks in, he's basically looking at windows that overlook the front of the house. And as soon as he walks in, he sees written on the wall above those windows is the words, "Marry me," written in shaving cream. And he walks in and he's just looking at the words and he's thinking to himself, my daughters, I just don't feel like this was them. How could this be them? I would have noticed something like this. It just feels like this can't have been them, but he can't quite wrap his head around what that actually means. If you accept this isn't your daughters, then everything your daughters have been saying before might also be true. So he's like stuck with this almost existential crisis of like, what do you do with this? And he's staring at the letters and his daughter and friend are right, like literally up against his backside. And then he hears something. Over to his left, out of his eyesight, still in this front room, sort of tucked up against the back wall relative to how he's looking, was just a closet. And he hears the sound of the closet opening. And he knows his girls are right behind him. And so he turns, and out of the closet walks this figure that's wearing a dress. They have clown makeup painted on their face. They have a hatchet over their shoulder. It's this man who walks out and he stares at Frank and the girls and he just points and he goes, "Upstairs." And he starts walking towards them with this hatchet over his shoulder. And Frank, who, he's in complete fight or flight response here. He just like protects the girls and he's like, go, just do what he says. And they start going out of the front room towards the stairs that go to the second floor. And this, dress wearing, hatchet wielding, makeup wearing maniac also is the dress of his dead wife. He's staring at Frank intently, got this hatchet, and he just keeps telling him like, go up the stairs. And so Frank keeps the girls between, the guy, he stays between the guy and the girls, and he gets them to go up the stairs. And as soon as they get to the top of the stairs, Frank is still staring at this guy who's right in front of him with the hatchet. He tells the girls, go into the first bedroom. And so Kathleen goes in, Tina goes in, Karen goes in. And then when Frank goes in, this guy with the hatchet is just sort of methodically, slowly walking after him, like he's just taking his time. As soon as Frank goes in and all the girls are in with him, he slams the door shut and he holds it shut. And suddenly there's this struggle between, the hatchet wielding maniac and Frank to open this door. And so they're battling at the door, and Tina, the 15-year-old, immediately just turns, runs to the window, and jumps out of the second floor window, leaps out of the house. She slams to the ground. There's screaming and all this chaos happening up in the room right above her. She just takes off to that same neighbor's house, and now she's in full hysterics, screaming that somebody's in my house, they're attacking my family. And the neighbor now can sense this is not some, delusion these girls are having. Something horrible is happening next door. And so they call the police. Police show up, a couple minutes later. And when they get there, they look up at that second floor bedroom where Frank and the girls were. And Frank is leaning out the window, screaming that, there's somebody in my house. They were right at the door. I don't know where they are. Like they're gone. They're in my house. And so the police immediately, they get the ladder put up and they get the girls and Frank out of the house and they usher them over to the neighbor's house, and they're all safe. They're all fine, traumatized, no doubt. But the guy never got into the bedroom and at some point took off. And so Frank and the girls were okay. And so Frank, Kathleen, the friend, Karen and Tina, they're all fine. They've been moved over to the other house. But now the police, they go in, guns drawn to search the house for, whoever this person is who broke into their house. And so in they go and they search the house, and, there's no sign of any sort of disturbance of any kind. There's nothing there. No one's in the house. They searched everywhere. They did ultimately, though, find a hatchet that was leaned up against the back sliding glass door, and that door was partially ajar. And so it sort of gave the impression that, this person, whoever it was, is gone. And so after, this search of the house, the police are like, look, Frank, they're like, we don't really know what to tell you here. We don't know where this person is. Your description of them, unfortunately, it's sort of like you describe somebody wearing a costume. We don't even know what they look like realistically. They had clown makeup on, a dress. We think they're a man. They could be a woman. We don't know how old they are. Like, we don't know what to tell you other than it seems risky to have you stay in your house. And so for right now, while we continue to investigate and try to figure out who this is, we want you and your family to just stay with a relative. Just don't stay at your house. What we're going to do is we're going to basically stake out your property and just assume that maybe this guy might come back and maybe we'll catch them then. And then in the interim, we're going to be canvassing the town and trying to figure out who did this to you. And Frank's like, fine. And so really without taking anything from his house, he and the girls they leave. They go to a relative's house. And over the next few days, the police do canvass or they stake out Frank's property. And nobody goes in or out. It's just the vacant home that no one's going in or out of. There's nothing's going on. And police are communicating that to Frank the whole time. Like, hey, we've asked in town too, and no one seems to know who this could be. Again, it's sort of limiting with the description of this person. We don't really know who we're even looking for, but no one's gone into your house. And we think at this point, they're probably not going to come back. But just for safety, give it a couple more days before we let you go back in. And so this is, a couple days into this, and Frank, he and his girls, they had to leave pretty abruptly. And so they were not able to take any supplies with them. They had their toiletries and their pillows and all those things, all their nice things. They're in the house still. And so it's broad daylight on the third day of this. And Frank's like, you know what? I think I can pretty much just go over there, run in the house real quick and just get my stuff, bring it back. And then we'll have a couple more days and we'll move back in. And so he drives, Frank does, broad daylight on this third day of the stakeout. He gets to his property and he doesn't see any police anywhere. Doesn't see any cop cars anywhere. He's thinking, maybe they're unmarked or something. I don't know. But there's nobody parked anywhere. It just looks like his house is here and no one's watching it. And he's like, okay, well, they're probably here somewhere. I'm just going to run in real quick, get my stuff and leave. And so he parks in his driveway. He gets out of his car and he starts walking towards the front door. But before he even gets to the porch, he thinks he sees something moving in his house up on the second floor, that same bedroom where they had been. And, he stops immediately because he's thinking, oh, wait a minute. What if they're watching my property from in the house? Like, they didn't specify how they were going to watch the house. And I don't want to just walk in there, to potentially an armed police officer who's waiting for an intruder. I don't want to just barge in. And so I better take a second and call them and really let them know, hey, I'm here before I go in. And so he goes to the neighbor and he says, hey, let me use your phone. He calls the police and he's like, hey, I know you're staking out my house, but can you just confirm that you have officers in my house? Then that's how you're watching it, because that's who I think I just saw in the house. And they're like, no one's watching your house from in the house. They're outside the house. And Frank's like, well, I didn't see anybody outside the house. And the guy he was talking to was like, well, then you must have caught them at turnover. I bet right now the police officer who's supposed to be on duty probably just arrived, and you must have got there right in that couple of minute transition time, which unfortunately does happen sometimes. But we promise somebody's there. And what you ought to do is just go over there, and I bet right now there's an officer watching your property. Why don't you talk to them? And I'm sure they can go in and check the house for you if you want. And Frank's like, okay. That's weird because I definitely saw someone in the house, but I'll go check. And so he hangs up, he goes outside, and sure enough, there's a cop that's parked right outside the house. He goes over to the cop and he sort of explains the situation. And the guy's like, okay, no one's in your house, but I will go in and look around before you go in and get your stuff. And so Frank stays out on the curb and the officer goes up to the house. Now remember, this house, no one's going in or out. And with the exception of a couple of minutes of turnover when there's a little bit of a gap sometimes, this house is just vacant. Nothing's happening in this house. The cop walks up and he gets to the door and he unlocks it and he opens it up and he just cannot believe what he sees inside the house. There were pennies glued to the ceiling all across the first floor, just like
pennies?
Pennies, like the coin, pennies, glued to the ceiling all across the first floor. And there are all these half full champagne glasses sort of positioned all over the first floor. And the furniture has clearly been maneuvered and arranged in sort of bizarre ways. It's totally inexplicable. And all the guy's thinking is, we've been watching this house. Clearly, somehow, someone's getting in and out of this house, or they're still here. And I don't know how that's possible, but something's off here, obviously. And so instead of searching the house, he pulls out, calls in backup, and they do yet another complete search of this house. Like they're going to tear this place apart and figure out how the heck someone's getting in and out and doing things inside the house with nobody noticing. Like, what's going on here? And they search the whole house top to bottom, and it's a much more thorough search this time. And they cannot find anyone. There's no sign of anybody in the house, how they got in, how they got out. It's just this total weird mystery. And at the end of it, there were a couple of officers that were down in the basement, that like blank basement, and they're standing there like frustrated, like how could this be happening? What's going on here? And one of them was leaning on the washing machine, and he's like, I just don't understand how we could have missed this. And as he's talking, the washing machine suddenly moves from his weight being on it, and he looks down, and behind where the washing machine had been, now that it's been moved, is a little cutout on the wall. And it sort of looked like it was where the vents of the washing machine and the dryer would go to. But he sort of moved it a little bit more, and he realized that there was a big enough cutout behind these two, the washer and dryer, that a person could realistically fit through the hole in the wall. And so they pull the washer dryer away, and they poke their head in, and they see with their flashlight, there's like a tunnel that's been burrowed into the wall in the basement. And crouched down in the corner, looking back at them, is this dude wearing a dress.
Holy shit.
And the dude in the corner, his name was Danny LaPlante. And I'm going to tell you about Danny LaPlante because this story, it takes a horrible turn. This is already bad, but it gets exponentially worse. So Danny LaPlante was this 16-year-old kid, and he clearly had humongous issues, huge issues. 6 months earlier from when he's discovered in the wall, he had some sort of fleeting interaction with Tina Bowen, the 15-year-old. Apparently, he made some sort of move on her, and he felt rejected. Tina didn't recall it at all. They apparently went to school together, but she does not have a memory of interacting with this guy ever. It's like, I didn't even know that he felt that way about me, but he felt spurned by her. He felt rejected. And the way he handled his rejection is he snuck into their house right after that, so 6 months earlier, burrowed a hole in their wall in the basement and was living in their walls. And what he was doing is, by the way, he did not have access to their whole house from that hole in the basement. He only had a little crawl space in the walls in the basement. He was leaving the crawl space all the time and just wandering their house with the family there. He was spying on the family 24/7. And then at a certain point, when the girls went downstairs and they had that seance, Danny could tell they were having a seance to try to contact their mother. And all those tapping sounds he made were intentional. He was trying to pretend to be their mother to make them feel like it's mom. He was the one, he snuck into their bedrooms and was flicking the underside of their bed. Like, this guy was asking to get caught. He never did. But it was him pretending to be their mom. And then eventually he mixed it up and decided to be evil and pretended to be a malevolent spirit. So this guy's completely psychopathic, right? So he gets arrested and he's put in jail. And 10 months later, as he's awaiting trial, he is given bond. He's allowed to leave jail. Yeah, he's given bond. That's the framing, right? Yeah, bond. And while he's out on bond, he sneaks into another family's house. And for reasons that we still don't even understand now, he murdered 3 of the 4 people in that family after living in their walls. And now he's currently in jail, and he recently was put up for a parole hearing, and he was rejected. And during the parole hearing, they determined that he's arguably one of, if not the single most sociopathic member in the entire prison system. So that's the story of Danny LaPlante.
Damn, how did he kill the other family?
He drowned them.
He drowned them?
I believe the mom was strangled and the 2 children he drowned.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so if you look at this guy now, if you look at videos of Daniel LaPlante now, I mean, if you were to imagine somebody capable of doing that, that's what he looks like. So, not good, dude.
How do you find this stuff?
Well, that one's pretty well like publicized, I suppose. So
People
that one
know about that.
Yeah, but the thing that, and this is not to like toot my own horn, but I think that the thing that I will do to stories that I think brings them to life a little bit is there are stories that are told, by loads of people on loads of accounts and channels and movies and TV shows. But a lot of time there's sort of like a formula for how each one gets told. For example, this is completely random, but like Roswell, New Mexico. I don't even have the story in mind, but the way that story is often told is Roswell, New Mexico is like where aliens by the government are like kept, and like that's how you start the story, and then you sort of back into it, and that's how everybody tells that story. If I was going to tell, and I'd never done this, a story about Roswell, I would start with some anecdote that led to this theory even existing. I would start with somebody's experience in real time that was potentially paranormal, and then I would begin to connect it to Roswell in some way. Maybe the government comes in after the fact, and suddenly the sighting this person saw, the government's asking questions, and it turns out it's the agents from Roswell, New Mexico. And so I like to find a way to tell a story where the payoff is only at the end. It's like, especially in true crime stories, which we do a lot of, so many times when you tell a story like that, it becomes one, fixated on the antagonist, the killer, because they're the most obscene, they're the most memorable in the worst ways. And you lead with like, today, I'm going to tell you the story of the murder of so-and-so. And so going into it, you sort of already know what the story is, and you're fixated on the killer. And so the way I tell these stories, it's designed to be like you're in the POV of the normal people that are meant to feel relatable to you. The people who, like the Bowen family, were in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's all. That's it. And the other family that were killed, the Gustafsons, wrong place, wrong time. I want you to inhabit their point of view and have the killer be almost anonymous. And this is a story where Danny LaPlante gets really named, but the killer, or like the bad thing that happens, always needs to feel like sort of this thing that always happens in a MrBallen story. It's this ambiguous bad thing. It's the character in the story that I can relate to. I can like feel their emotions. That way, by the time the bad thing happens, it's like heart-wrenching. You're like, oh my God, like I feel for those people, So that story gets told a ton, but it's often told with, I'm going to tell you the story of the guy in the wall.
Man, we do a phenomenal job.
Thank you. That was a long one.
Holy shit. Living in the wall?
Yeah. And what's crazy is like,
Did this guy have parents?
I think he did. He was a very, don't quote me, I want to say a very dysfunctional family, if you can imagine. So, yeah. But there's actually, these are far less good stories, but there's a shocking number of, because we researched this stuff, shocking number of people that have found people living in their walls. And honestly, it's not like you can live in someone's wall. It isn't like your walls magically connect all over your house. That's not really how it works. But there are definitely instances, especially in like major cities, of like squatters finding their way into these apartment complexes and different people's homes. Like actually, this is not even a full story, but there was there was a movie based on this, and I'm not prepared to tell this whole story, but there was this apartment complex, I want to say it was in New York, where there were all these people getting killed, like just in this massive like Section 8 style housing, like people packed on top of each other, super big high rise. All these people were getting killed, they were just turning up dead in their apartments. And, nobody knew why. They just would be found dead in their apartment, sort of inexplicably. And it would turn out that the way this apartment was built was really, really cheaply. In particular, the way they insulated the walls between each of the different units. So in essence, if you wanted to, there was a way from, I think, the basement where you could get into the inner workings of you could get into the space between every single apartment. There was effectively like scaffolding, very near. Oh my
gosh.
And even worse than that, every single apartment, their mirror was just placed into the drywall. It wasn't anchored at all. And so these dudes began sneaking into people's apartments by just climbing inside of the wall, like this high-rise building, and punching open the mirror. Now they're in your apartment and killing the people in the apartment and then going back in through the mirror.
Jeez. My days don't slow down. Between work, the gym, and time with the kids, I need eyewear that can keep up with everything I've got going on. And that's why I trust Roka. I've tried plenty of shades before, but these stand out. They're built for performance without sacrificing style. I've put them through it all, on the range, out on the water, and off-road. They don't quit. They're lightweight, stay locked in place, and are tough enough to handle whatever I throw at them. And the best part? They don't just perform, they look incredible. Sleek, modern, and designed for people who expect more from their eyewear. No fluff, no gimmicks, just premium frames that deliver every single time. And that's why Roca is what I grab when I'm heading out the door. Born in Austin, Texas, they're American designed with zero shortcuts. Razor sharp optics, no glare, and all-day comfort that doesn't quit. And if you need prescription lenses, they've got you covered with both sunglasses and eyeglasses. One brand, all your bases. Roca isn't just eyewear, it's confidence you can wear every day. They're the real deal. Ready to upgrade your eyewear? Check them out for yourself at roca.com and use code SRS for 20% off site-wide at checkout. That's ROKA.com. Hey folks, our friends at Tractor Supply have always stood for community, for neighbors helping neighbors, and for the people who keep life out here moving forward. And at the heart of every community are the heroes who serve, the veterans, active duty military, first responders, and the families who stand beside them. These are the folks who answer the call, who protect, who sacrifice. And Tractor Supply believes that that deserves more than just a thank you. That's why they created the Hometown Heroes program. It's their way of giving back in meaningful, everyday ways. As a hometown hero, you'll enjoy special perks through Neighbors Club, like earning rewards on every purchase, free trailer rentals and delivery, and exclusive savings on holidays that honor your service. And the best part? Once you sign up and verify through ID.me, it's automatic. No hoops, no hassles. So if you or someone you love is a hometown hero, visit tractorsupply.com/hometownheroes to learn more. It's Tractor Supply's way of standing behind those who always stand for us.
And there was I don't know if this one was true or not, but there was one about, in a way, it's sort of not heartwarming at all. It's bad, but it's the closest thing to heartwarming.
I don't know if you have any heartwarming stories,
No,
John.
this one is like, there was this guy who, I want to say, this might be, I don't know if this is a true story or not, but it's a great, you can probably look it up. It's one of the more viral clips that's out there, and I think it's true. There was this guy who, he lived in the city. It was in New York, and I think he shot content for like a vlog or something. I don't think he was a big influencer or anything, but he was a type of guy who like filmed himself a lot. And there was someone put together a compilation of all these videos of him. Over the course of these vlogs he was doing, he was mentioning that he's like, man, it's the weirdest thing happened to me last night. Like my toothbrush was like on the other side of the counter, little things that in the vlog, he's clearly not making a big deal out of it, but he's saying them. He's like, that's so weird. Like, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Like, it just, here and there, he just mentioned that there were all these weird things happening. He lives alone. He lives in a big apartment building in New York. And he eventually starts to like question his own sanity. He begins to say to his followers, or whatever you want to call it, he's like, something weird is happening to me. Like I keep forgetting where I'm putting things. I keep buying things and they're like disappearing, in particular food, and like weird stuff is happening in the kitchen. And so he eventually sets up a camera in his kitchen. It's a very small, like New York City apartment kitchen. And he sets up a camera. And over the first couple of nights he's filming, nothing happens. He doesn't even know what he's looking for. Like he's not going to, oh, someone's living in my apartment with me. He's just like, what? No, am I sleepwalking? Like, what am I doing? And then there's this one clip it's gone crazy viral. It'd be easy to find. It's the middle of the night and this cupboard opens and this little woman climbs out of the cupboard and she's like looking around and she goes over to a sink. She hasn't even got off the counter yet. And she squats down and pees in a sink. And then she jumps down and she goes to his fridge and she starts eating all this food in his fridge. And then she like goes around the house. She comes back with like a toothbrush, sure enough. She like cleans her teeth, puts everything back. And then she goes back into the cupboard and puts everything back. And the guy discovered it and he was like horrified.
This is real too?
Well, I don't know that I've seen this video and I believe it's true. And this guy did an interview for it. He was like, yeah, it turns out in that cupboard, you could basically climb up like into the ceiling ceiling of the apartment and hide. But it was this woman who, and this is the heartwarming part, if you will, I think that she had no money, she was down on her luck. She was this elderly woman who had literally walked into his apartment when he left the door open one day and just like magically found this hiding spot and had been there for a year. So he was living in this room for a year. It's like crazy.
Holy shit, dude. You uncovered some wild shit.
Yeah, man.
Wow. Do you believe in paranormal stuff?
I don't know. I sort of do. I think that the what's happened is in virtue of constantly searching for stories that, are credible enough that we would share them on our shows. You sort of are exposed to a lot of stuff that's clearly not true. Especially when it comes to like user submissions, a lot of that stuff, it could be true, but there's just no way I can prove any level of credibility. It's one person's perspective type of thing. But there are definitely some things that are tough to explain. And I think that where I go to is it's almost a cop out to say, paranormal doesn't exist, only because all you have to do is just zoom out a little bit on our species, zoom out a little bit on Earth. It doesn't matter what you think of how we got here, or whether there's God, whether there isn't, or whatever your interpretation of existence and our place in it doesn't matter. It is undeniably the case that we are this little tiny thing in this vast space that we don't really understand. Even through every religion, we still don't really understand. Like, we don't really know with absolute clarity who we are and what we're doing here. We have good ideas, we have great theories, but it's undeniably part of the human experience that we are like, yeah, we don't really know. We think so. I believe this, but I don't really know. And so because of that, why is it so outlandish to think that there could be, for example, like supernatural activity? I mean, I told this story actually on the Story Time with MrBallen, the new show we've been doing. I told it to Tom Segura on our first episode. The shortened version of it is there's a story of this Mexican pilot who's this young civilian pilot who was learning how to fly just as a civilian. He's like a 21-year-old kid, forget his name. And there was the day where he was going to fly solo for the first time. So he shows up to the airfield. I think it's called Chimalacán, Mexico. I'm butchering the name. He shows up, he's done all his tandem or whatever you call it, flights with an instructor. Today he's going to fly on his own. And the flight path that he was going to be on was very simple. Take off, do a couple of turns, come back and land, just show us you can do it. And then, you're certified. So he's not nervous. He gets in the plane. He takes off. I think it was like 9:15 in the morning. I want to say this is in the 80s or 90s. I forget, but it wasn't super recent. He takes off and everything's going fine. And he begins making his turn. And then at a certain point, there's like this fog that rolls in. And they were sort of aware of the fog, but the fog, like, it really came in fast. And as he's entering this fog, he loses his visibility. And this is also at a time where the instruments in the aircraft were pretty rudimentary. Like, it was basically dead reckoning. You're sort of looking out the window to see where you're going. This might even have been in the 60s or 70s now that I think about it. It was not recent. And all he's got is like his compass and like his altimeter. Like, he doesn't have much going on. And he's just sort of looking out the window and he's seeing where he's at. And he's like, okay, I'm good. He's like making his turn. But at a certain point, he knows he needs to begin to descend to land. And he basically knows where he is. He figures, once I go below the fog, I'm going to see the runway and I'll land. But as he tries to descend, he realizes his craft, his airplane's not responding. It's flying, it's steady, it's not faltering, but it's not descending. And he tries to like pull the yoke to one side. It's not turning right. It's not turning left. He can't do anything. He's not panicking, but as this is happening, he realizes that, the plane is not just leveled off. It actually is beginning to climb and he has no control over it. He's just going up. And so he goes over the radio. He's trying to tell, I guess the air traffic control, like, what's going on, but he doesn't really even know what's going on other than he's lost control of his aircraft. He's in this big, cloud of fog. He's sort of, losing sight of anything. And as he's rising, he begins to lose consciousness and finally just passes out. So he's riding up into the clouds with no control and he passes out. And so Raphael, pretty sure his name's Raphael. For the sake of this story, I'm going to call him Raphael from here on out. So Raphael, he wakes up sort of abruptly, and he's like, like looking around, and immediately he takes stock of, what's going on, because he just passed out in the cockpit a minute ago, and he's flying solo, pretty dangerous. And he sees that his plane's still flying. He's flying level. His plane's fine, and the mist is all gone. The fog is all gone. And he looks out his window, and he sees that, not only is the fog all gone, but he's actually over a very, new looking environment. He's flying over water. Now, in every direction, it's water. And, he's really just happy that he hasn't crashed, and he can't really picture how he got here. But as he's sort of taking stock and, taking back control of the plane, and now he does have control of the plane again, he realizes there's somebody trying to talk to him on the radio. And they're like, hey, Raphael, like, hey, what's going on, Raphael? And he's like, oh my God, like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, I don't even know where I am. And the guy over the radio is air traffic control off the coast of, I forget where it is, some coastal city in Mexico. They're like, hey, I've been talking to you for the last hour or so. Are you okay? And is somebody with you right now? And Raphael's like, what? Like, no, like, it's just me. I fell asleep. I don't know how I got here. And so the air traffic control guy is very like suspect of what's going on. And he's like, hey, do me a favor, like, turn around, like, come over here. You're going to land right here at, whatever city this is. You're going to come land right here. We're going to talk to you. Okay. And so he's like, thank you. Okay. So he turns around and he lands. And where he is, I'm now forget, I think it's 3 hours away from where he took off. Where he lands is a 3-hour flight away. Let's just put it that way. I forget the name of where he lands. So he lands, and as soon as he lands, like, he's thinking like, oh my God, I'm getting in so much trouble. I definitely didn't pass my test. Like, this did not go well. He gets out of his aircraft, and there's all these people waiting for him. Like these like stereotypical, like in suits, like government officials. They show, that's what it looks like. That's the way he reports it. They take him, and before he can even ask questions about what the heck just happened, they're like, hey, you're going to come with us. We're going to screen you and see if you're on drugs. And also we want to give you a psychological test to make sure you're sane. And, the whole time he's like, what is going on? He's trying to ask questions. Nobody's giving him an answer. Like, it's these, people in suits that have just kind of whisked him away to this hospital. And he gets to the hospital, and they give him a drug screening, and he's totally sober. And they have a psychologist talk to him who determines that he's shaken, but he's sane. And it's only at that point that they're like, all right, Raphael, we're gonna tell you what the heck's going on here. And he has no idea. He's like totally clueless what's happened here. So he took off at like 9:15 a.m. This is what they told him. They're like, you took off at 9:15 a.m. You flew up into the cloud, and then no one could find you again. And then at about, I want to say it was like, I forget the time exactly, but it was like an hour later or an hour and a half later, call it like 10:30, 10:45, air traffic control off the coast of Mexico, they picked up this blip on their radar flying in circles out over the water. And it was Raphael. And they're like, what are you doing here? The guy who was like, hey, are you alone in the cockpit right now? That guy, that same air traffic control, he got on the radio with Raphael, and he spoke to him for an hour, and they recorded his conversation. And at some point in this conversation with Raphael that Raphael doesn't remember, there's a recording of this. I wish I could play for you right now, where Raphael, it doesn't sound like him, but he's the only one in the cockpit, and it's recorded on air traffic control. He says something to the effect of, this is not Raphael. We come to you from another planet. We're using his body as a microphone. You need to understand that your species is on the brink of destruction, that you're using nuclear weapons, you're about to turn on yourselves, and you're going to annihilate yourselves if you don't stop. And if you don't stop, like there are, the insinuation was entities other than, people on Earth are going to intervene and stop you. It was basically like, stop fucking around on Earth and blowing shit up and killing each other, or else someone's going to have to intervene. It's sort of like the message, but it's said through Raphael. And if you listen to it, even though it's in Spanish, it sounds horrifying. His voice sounds deep, and it's like garbly, and you can tell the air traffic control guy, as he's talking back and forth to him, he's unnerved by it. And then magically at like 10:30 or 10:45, when Raphael comes to in the cockpit, his voice totally changes on the recording. He's like, hey, what's going on? I just woke up. So Raphael has no memory of it, but there's a couple other anomalies that don't really add up. One, you have just the fact that there's a recording of the conversation where for an hour, this guy is getting this weird feedback from Raphael that sounds like another alien species talking to him. But also the plane itself, it's a 3-hour flight to get to that body of water. And he had enough fuel in his plane, I want to say for like an hour's flight or 2 hours flight. It was less. When they recovered his plane, he had like 3/4 full tank of gas. So just to get to where he was, even if he had flown straight, one, he didn't have enough time because it was 9:15-ish takeoff, 10:45 a.m. or whatever it was. He's found over the body of water. That's not 3 hours. That's an hour and a half. So it's less than 3 hours. So even a fast plane couldn't have got there in 3 hours. And the fuel was literally like too full to be there. And so the only way you can get this story, this is sort of dramatic, but it's good for the story. The story's not really widely talked about because it's like a very scrutinized story in Mexico because people are like, this is the best piece of evidence that something weird's going on. Like there could be aliens out there. This feels like proof. The story has been buried in an archive in this library in Mexico. And the way we got access to it, I kid you not, is we had to write a handwritten letter to this Mexican library to request to use the story in the recording because it's the recording. That's the transcript in the recording. And then when we asked, they had to interview us to figure out what we were using it for.
I
swear to God.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And they were like, whatever you do, don't make a video about it on the internet.
And here we are.
Yeah. So
Oh shit.
right.
So how'd you find that one?
So we have a pretty amazing team of like researchers, and we have one, Sam, who's our Spanish language researcher. And so she will specifically read news sources that are, Spanish language that we don't necessarily have access to. And she just found it. Yeah. I guess people were talking about it on the interwebs, if you will.
Man, that is wild.
Yeah.
Have you had any paranormal stuff happen to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long one. I don't know if you want to hear a long one. I have a long story. How much time do we got?
We got all the time in the world.
Yeah, so I have one thing that happened to me that I don't even know if it's paranormal or not. I would say that it likely feels close. And in a way, people think it's like the reason I started doing MrBallen, but it's totally coincidental. I have exactly one time that I had something strange happen to me, and it also happens to be one of the first stories I told on the internet that went pretty viral. But it's not why I do this; it's just happenstance. So when I was 16 years old, I was big into snowboarding, and I had these two buddies of mine who both were named Nick. And one of them, his nickname was Wolf, like the animal wolf. And so for the sake of the story, there's Nick and there's Wolf. And the three of us, we snowboarded together all the time. So I grew up just south of Boston, Massachusetts, and I lived in a town called Quincy. And it's, Massachusetts is not known for its rugged mountain peaks. And so there's really nowhere to go snowboarding. But there was this place called Blue Hills. It's this little ski resort. It's literally a hill, hence the name Blue Hills, in Milton, Massachusetts. And, they pump snow onto it. And it's no kidding, just a little tiny hill. And we loved it. We were there all the time, taught snowboarding there. It was like, that was our place. In the winter, me, Nick, and Wolf were there all the time. And, but every winter from the time I was like maybe 12, so 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, the one big trip we would take is Nick's family had a cabin in New Hampshire up in the White Mountains. And for us, that was like the one time where we'd go stay at the cabin. And for like a weekend or a few days, we would go snowboarding at like real mountains in New Hampshire, which compared to Blue Hills in Massachusetts, these were like, Mount Everest. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so we really looked forward to that trip every single year. But when I was 16, we had a trip planned to go up to this cabin, and their cabin itself, it's located up on this old abandoned ski resort, which matters to the story. Basically, they built all these little cabins on, I think it's called King Pine was the name of the resort before it shut down. But there's all these cabins that were built, for the ski resort, but then the ski resort shut down and a lot of the cabins got demolished. Nobody really kept them, or they were sold off or whatever, but there was a few that kept their cabin on these old abandoned mountains. And there's really like very little in the way of public service that goes up there. So the roads get all nasty and stuff. But it was like cool to be living on the side of the mountain. But anyhow, we had a trip to go up there planned. And sort of out of left field, Nick's father passed away. Honestly, I think it was a heart attack, but it was very abrupt. And when we would go to this trip, this annual trip up to this cabin, it was always me, Wolf, Nick, and then Nick's mom and dad. And they were like this perfect couple. You know, they loved each other so much. They were so much fun to be around, just like the most motherly, fatherly group. And they loved that cabin, especially the dad. The dad, I don't think he built it, but he was like always, you know, he was very handy, fixing it up. You know, he's a man's man, rugged guy. And so when I found out that Nick's dad had died, you know, I really didn't care about the ski trip, snowboard trip. I'm like, of course we're not doing that. You know, how could we? It was like literally a couple of days away. You know, there's not a chance we're going to do that. And I remember I talked to Wolf separately, so not the guy whose dad died. And I said, hey, you know, just between you and I, obviously we're not going to go, you know, right? And he's like, yeah, no way. But I ended up getting a call from Nick, and Nick he was always like a very stoic guy, sort of like a tough, quiet, reserved kind of guy. And he's like, hey, like showing almost no emotion or anything. He's like, hey, you know, we're just going to go. We're going to go on the trip anyways. And I remember thinking that I actually really didn't want to, because like I'm thinking about how uncomfortable that's going to be. The absence of his father is going to be so obvious. But I also was thinking that, you know, for all I know, this is their way of like, you know, sort of honoring his late father. He loved the cabin. And maybe it's one of those things where it's like, he would want us to go, you know, still do the trip. And so I called Wolf separately, and he sort of agreed that he's like, I feel like it's our responsibility to go and be supportive and just let this be whatever it is. You know, it's not meant to be a fun vacation. It's meant to be there for the family and just go. And so me and Wolf agree to go with Nick. And the deal is it's going to be the three of us, the three friends, Nick's mom, like usual. And then she had two much older sons. They were in their 30s at the time. We're 16. I hadn't met them before. I knew they existed, but you know, the rumor was that they would be joining us at the cabin, presumably the night we got there. We were going to be there for 3 nights. They were going to join us. And so without even telling Wolf or I, we sort of understood that they're going there to sort of fill the obvious gap left behind by Nick's dad's absence. And so that's sort of what we think we're walking into. And so the day comes, it's just a couple of days later, you know, Nick's mom comes, picks me up, and it's me, Wolf, and Nick in the back seat. It's a big SUV, and, you know, Nick's mom is driving, and the front passenger seat is, you know, conspicuously empty. That's where the dad would sit. And so, you know, up to New Hampshire we go. And, you know, at this point I've embraced the situation, and I'm just looking to be a good friend. So is Wolf. We just go up there. It is what it is. So we go up to the cabin, and a couple more points about the cabin that are sort of important for the story is the cabin itself is situated on a mountain. It's built on a mountain. If you think about how you'd build a level house on a slope, you got to sort of put half the house, if you will, out on stilts to keep it up supported, and then the other half is sort of effectively built into the mountain, you know, to build something on a slope. I hope that makes sense. And so that's how this one's built. Basically, half the house was sort of jutting off the mountain with big stilts and a big wraparound porch that went around the outside. And then sort of like a section of the house was sort of burrowed into the mountain. And when you drive up this mountain, you'd turn onto a little access road, and you'd be approaching the house, sort of looking at it from a profile view. You'd see on the left side is the stilted side, and the right side is the side buried in the mountain. The door is right in front of you as you pull up to it. The door to get into the cabin, you actually have to step onto the wraparound porch and take a few steps. And then there's a door that leads directly into the side of the cabin. And once you step inside, you're standing quite literally between the kitchen on your right, where there's linoleum under your right foot, and on your left is this shag carpet where the dining room is. So you step in and you're straddling these two rooms. There's also sleigh bells that they kept on the door. So anytime you opened it, you could always hear it opening. And so you walk into the cabin, and there's just like one big open room. It's like an open floor plan. It's a very small cabin. So kitchen over here, dining room here with a table in it. And if you just kept walking straight towards the back of this cabin, again, not very big, you'd enter the living room. There's no wall demarcating it. You just sort of get to a couch with a TV on the back of the cabin. And if you turned around in that back of the cabin and looked up, you'd see a lofted second floor. And basically at the back side of the cabin, there's stairs that go up to the second floor. So it's just a lofted second floor. That's where the mom and dad, that's where they would sleep. And then where we would sleep is when you first walk in and you got the kitchen on your right, you got the dining room on your left. If you walk like halfway through the cabin and you stopped and you turned right, you're now looking into the mountain, that direction. There's a single hallway that goes straight down and then makes a tiny little left. And there's one bedroom that is where we would sleep. And when you go into that bedroom, you'd walk in. It's a corner-fed room, if you will, for our military days. And immediately on your right is a bunk bed. I would sleep on the lower bunk. Wolf would sleep on the top bunk. And then with basically all the remaining space in the room, it's not a very big room, was like a queen size bed where Nick would sleep. And there was just enough space where you could walk between the queen size and the bunk bed, a little row there. So all that will make sense once we get into the story or what really happens. So anyways, we get up to the mountain, we get to the cabin, we put our stuff down, and right away, even though it's midday, we head out to Attitash. I think that's the name of the mountain we went to, and we snowboard all day, and it's great. Even though it's a sad trip, it was wonderful to be out on the mountain. And then we come back, and at this point we were told that the brother, one of the two older brothers, was likely going to be there late at night. He was coming in from some trip he had, and so basically he was going to get there, but it was going to be late at night, likely after we fell asleep. So there's no reason to stay up for him. And so we were at the cabin, and the three of us are like, man, let's just like go to bed right now. It's like 7 or 8 o'clock. Let's just go to bed, and we can get up super early and like hit the mountain and snowboard all day tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. And so we go in our bedroom, and the other two fall asleep like immediately, but I just like can't sleep. There's no reason for it. Just couldn't sleep. Maybe I was excited. And I had like a PlayStation 1 in there, and I was playing like SSX Tricky, that little snowboarding game. Just crushing video games. I just couldn't sleep. But finally I'm like, all right, I gotta go to bed. So I turn it off, and I get into the bunk, and it's truly pitch black inside this room, where the room it's been built into the mountain. That's it. It's not some secret room. It's just the way the cabin is constructed. There's no windows. It's bunkered in the mountain, and so there's no light coming in. And it's the middle of the night, and the only light in the room was just a digital clock that had a little red dial to a little red digital face. That was the only light in the room. But it's like truly like a pitch black room. And so I'm laying there, and I still can't sleep. And my feet are closest to the door, and Wolf is the same orientation above me, and Nick is the same orientation next to me. And I'm laying there, and at a certain point, I hear footsteps out on the wraparound porch. And I didn't hear a car approach. I also wasn't like actively listening for sounds outside. I was trying to fall asleep. But I remember hearing these footsteps on the wraparound porch. And I think that I mentioned it before in another story. It's amazing what your brain will do. I've seen this in this particular story, and I've also seen it, in the military, where you're met with like overwhelming evidence that something bad is happening, but your brain is like, nope, everything is fine. And like, it's the middle of the night on a mountain, and I'm hearing footsteps in the wraparound porch. And so my brain immediately jumps to, oh, it's Nick's brother. It has to be Nick's brother. It's like 2, 3 in the morning right now. We knew he was going to be here. I've never met him. And it's funny, my go-to thought was, I'm going to pretend to be asleep because I don't want to have a social interaction with this dude right now. Never met him before. It's like 3 in the morning. I was going to walk in and be like, yo, get up. Let's chat. Let's meet, like he's not going to do that. But that's all I'm thinking. I'm like, all right, just do your best, like a sleep impression. And so I'm sitting there, and I hear these footsteps, and they're out on the porch, which is elevated off the ground. So it's pretty echoey, and it's like silent in the house beyond that. And so the footsteps, they stop outside the door that leads into the kitchen and the living room. And I hear the door open, and I can hear the sound of the sleigh bells on the door ringing. So it makes sense. The door's opening. He's here. And the the first thing that I noticed that seemed off was I didn't hear the door shut again. I just heard it open. And the footsteps, when they're out on the wraparound porch, that is an elevated wooden platform, makes sense that they would like echo in a sense, or that you would hear them. The cabin is not echoey. There's shag carpet and it's like cement slab. You don't hear people's footsteps. But when the footsteps came into the cabin, I continued to hear them like they were echoing, almost like they were out on the wraparound porch. And so footsteps, wraparound porch, the door opens, the sleigh bells, the footsteps come into the cabin and they're like echoing through. Echo's not even the right word. They're loud. Like I can hear like a thump with each step. And I'm telling myself it has to be one of Nick's brothers. That's all it can be. There's no other explanation here because any alternative is awful. There's no other good alternative. And so the footsteps are moving and I had this weird thought that I can only describe this way. It was almost like I could see in my mind's eye where they were in the house, whoever, whatever this was. It was like I was intimately aware, probably because I was having like a fight or flight reaction and my brain was going crazy. It was like with every step, it was like I could see the feet like moving exactly where they were in the cabin. And I could tell as the footsteps, hard stomped through the cabin, they stopped. And I knew they were stopping right at the point where you would turn and you would, if you wanted to, you'd walk down the hallway that led to us. There's no other, once you'd come down this hallway, we're the only room that's left, right? And so I'm picturing in my mind, like, okay, this has got to be Nick's brother, but like, what's going on here? Why do I have this weird thought about this? The footsteps stop at that point and they turn and they begin walking down the hallway towards our room. Our door's shut. It's pitch dark beyond the little red light in the room. And at this point, I'm starting to wonder, like, okay, I don't know if this could be Nick's brother. This feels awkward. It feels wrong. The door's not shut. Like, what's up with these footsteps being this loud? Is this an intruder? Is it a predator? I don't know. Is it an animal that's come into the house? Like all these thoughts are going through my head and they're all bad. And I remember having this almost paralyzing fear come over me as the footsteps began coming down the hall, because all I'm thinking is, in a moment here, invariably, it seems like the door is going to open and I'm going to have some sort of interaction with whoever, whatever this is. Wolf and Nick are dead asleep. And I'm so scared with fear. I can't make a sound. I'm so scared. And so I'm laying there and the footsteps come down the hallway and then they stop right outside the door. So it comes down the hallway and it turns and it's facing the doorway that's shut. And I'm looking towards the foot of my bed, the bunk bed now, and there's a space between the top bunk and where I'm laying. And so I have a little bit of a view on this door that's on the wall here. I can see the door and the door opens inwardly and it's so dark. But like my mind, I'm like, I know where the door is. I know, like, even though I can't see it, I know if anybody comes in, they're going to be right there. And so I'm laying here staring down through the slat in my bunk bed. The door opens and this dark, tall figure walks into the room. And each step is like this thunderous boom as it's walking into the room. Like it's echoing through the whole house, it feels like. Like I'm amazed no one else has woken up to it. And I see it walk past, and I'm going to explain this. I see it walk past the slats in the bed, or that space in the bed. And the room is like pitch black. There's really no light coming in even when the door opened up. There's a tiny bit of light from the digital clock, but there's virtually no light. And I could practically perfectly make out a dark silhouette within a dark room. It was like I could see it clear as day, as if there was a light being shown on it, this tall, dark figure that walks past the bed. And I'm laying here and my view is partially obscured by the top bunk over here. Like I can see Nick on the bed there. I can basically see the whole room. But if you're standing real close to the bed and you were to walk down the row and you were taller than the top bunk, let's say, I couldn't actually see you unless I moved my head and looked up at you, right? So I'm laying here and this thing walks into the room. It turns at the foot of the bed and it begins marching down the space between where I'm laying and where Nick is laying. And it's so tall that from my perspective, I can only like see its thighs, if you will, like its hips would be above the top bunk. Like it doesn't feel physically possible that it's so tall. And it marches right next to me and it stops. And I'm laying there sweating bullets. I honestly don't think I've been more scared in my life. I don't think I've ever been more scared. And all I remember thinking, I said it in the YouTube video that I told, and it became like a meme within my community of fans. I was like, it very earnestly. I was like, all I could think was, please, God, whatever or whoever you are, don't bend down here and look at me, because it'll ruin my life to like have to interact with you. But I'm laying there. All I'm thinking is, oh my God, like, don't interact with me. Don't, like, I know this is not your Nick's brother. I don't know who or what this is. But it like turned away from me, almost like a military facing movement, because it had marched down the way and it turned away from me. Now it's looking out over Nick's bed. I'm frozen, like paralyzed. I was helpless. He could have destroyed me. I couldn't do anything. And it like bowed forward into Nick. It like bent forward into Nick and then disappeared into the ground, just was gone. And, you know, in a movie, let's say, I think you might be like, oh, now it's safe. Then the ghost melted into the floor. We can run away now.
All good, everybody.
Right. But like in real life, I'm like, where did it go? Where is it? That's not normal. You know, there's so many questions. Like, what do I do now? And so I'm laying in bed wondering if it's going to like poke its head up and look at me. And again, it's like this horrible, horrible thing. And so I just laid there in bed waiting for whatever or whoever this was to reemerge. And I didn't move. And I'm like frozen solid, just so scared. And at a certain point when nothing happened in the room, I must have fallen asleep. That's the only explanation, because it's like this gray area post seeing it to when I wake up. But I basically come to or wake up very shortly after this. I only could have slept for like an hour tops. And I realized that Nick and Wolf are both up out of the bed. It's just me. There's a little bit of light in there, and I can hear out in the kitchen the sound of Nick's mom like doing her morning routine. And I'm so relieved. Like the room is safe again. I'm up out of the bed and I go running. I'm sorry, Nick and Wolf, they're still in the bed. They're still in their bedroom, but I can hear Nick's mom. That's actually important. So I wake up, I hear Nick's mom. Nick and Wolf are still in bed. I know it's safe now. I pop out of bed and I run into the kitchen, or I go into the kitchen, and I'm about to like tell her. I had all these questions, you know, I wanted to say to her. I mean, I'm 16, but I'm a kid, you know, I need some reassurance from an adult. But I instantly was like, wait a minute, she has just lost her husband like a couple days ago. And I am going to come dangerously close to like potentially having a sort of offensive conversation if I start being like, oh, I think I saw a ghost last night in my room. Who do you think it is? You know what I mean? So I just was like, how do I approach this?
How old are you?
I was 16. But I was like, oh, I have the perfect thing to ask.
Why are elite athletes and high performers using Armora Colostrum? Because Armora Colostrum is nature's first whole food with over 400 bioactive nutrients working at the cellular level to help build lean muscle, accelerate recovery, and to fuel performance, all without artificial stimulants or synthetic junk. Armora can help strengthen immunity, help ignite metabolism, and so much more. I've been using Armora ever since they sent me some to try. I have more energy and faster recovery after long days and workouts. Whether you're running a business, training hard, or just want an edge, Armora can help optimize your body for peak output. I've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armora.com/SRS or enter SRS to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's armra.com/SRS. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. These statements and information are not a substitute for or alternative to seeking care from your healthcare providers. When I started this podcast, it seemed like I had to figure it out all on my own. It was overwhelming. When you're starting something new, it seems like your to-do list just keeps growing and it can overrun your entire life. Finding the right tool can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names to brands just getting started. started. I use Shopify to power my own business so I can keep bringing you Vigilance Elite gummy bears. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build online and is packed with helpful AI tools to accelerate your content creation. And, like a marketing team, Shopify can create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are. Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your 1 month, $1 per month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/SRS. Go to shopify.com/SRS. Shopify.com/SRS.
So I go in the kitchen and I'm like shaken up because I know this happened. This was not like some fleeting dream, like something happened. And I say to her, I'm like, hey, and she's making coffee, doing her thing. And I'm like, hey, did your sons, your older sons, did one of them show up last night? And she sort of looked at me and she just didn't say anything. And I'm like, were they here? Did they stop by at any point? And she goes, no. And I clearly had a reaction to that. She could see a reaction from me. I was like let down. Like that was my one silver bullet. Maybe that was Nick's brother being really weird last night, you know? And she looks at me and she's like, John, it's okay. It was just my husband. I heard him last night too. And I got to tell you, that was not a reassuring thing to hear from a parent. It caught me so flat-footed because it's like I came out there looking like shit. I came out there looking like I had seen a ghost. I clearly was probing about something that happened last night. I'm doubling down on, was your son here? She just sort of said it. Whoa. And I didn't even know what to do. And so I just was like, I can't talk to her. I don't want to talk to her about this. I don't even know what to say or do. I'm just going to sit down. I began like drinking like 10 cups of coffee, just like doing anything to take my mind off this. And then not long after, Wolf and Nick came out of the bedroom and they came over and Nick's doing his own thing. And I pulled Wolf aside and I just told him outright. I was like, dude, this is what happened last night. And he's like, fuck, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That's horrifying. Sucks, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you, you know? But I told him and I'm like, I'm telling you, I don't know what to make of it. And I said, that's what Nick's mom said. Like I think she's referencing whatever happened to me. And he was like freaked out by it, but he's also like, I don't know, man. Like there's gotta be an explanation here, you know? And so I sort of took the stance of this is something I'm not going to understand. And I'm just going to act like everything's normal. Let's just have a normal day of snowboarding and assume that this is okay. Somehow or another, this is okay. And so we do our morning routine. We go snowboarding for the day. And pretty quickly, once I'm out of the cabin and we're snowboarding, like it all evaporated from my mind. I forgot about it. Had a great day of riding, you know, and then at the end of the night, when it was time to come home, the one thing I did do is I said to Nick and Wolf, I'm like, hey, tonight when we're back there, because we have 2 more nights at this cabin, I'm like, can you guys just like let me fall asleep first before you? Let me enter the slumber realm ahead of you. And they're like, oh yeah, definitely. We'll definitely do that for you. And so we get back to the cabin and I checked in with Nick's mom. I said, hey, tonight we're expecting your sons or one of them. And she's like, yeah, they're probably going to be here tonight. And I'm like, okay, these elusive brothers, I guess they're going to be here tonight. And so I'm in bed at like 7. I'm in my bed. I barely slept the night before and I'm like just trying to go to bed. And I remember the one thing that I did that made it feel like more real is I put in the springs underneath the bed above me, I put a knife like slotted into the springs, you know, to protect myself. But I'm like, nothing's going to happen. I'm fine. And so I lay there in bed and I cannot fall asleep because I'm doing that whole like, oh my God, I need to fall asleep before them. Like I can't be awake. And so it was impossible to sleep. And eventually, you know, Nick and Wolf are like, dude, we're going to bed. It's like midnight. We're going to bed. We're not just going to sit here until you do. And I'm like, fine. I'm like kicking their bed and like trying to keep them up. But eventually they fell asleep. And once again, I am alone in the room, wide awake. It's dark.
With a knife.
Oh, I got my stupid knife right above me. And I'm laying there and time was just going by. And at some point, maybe 2, 3 in the morning, I remember hearing the sound of the steps out on the wraparound porch. And it was the same. It was like
It happened again.
I'm laying there and I hear the sound on the wraparound porch. And because I've now had one experience, the first night, this feels the same. And it defies everything we think we understand about how the way the world works, the way things work. And I was just instantly in that paralysis state, that like so scared I can't move, like I'm dead. And I'm looking up at this fucking knife that I can't even move my arm to get, you know? And I'm laying there and I hear the footsteps on the porch. I hear the door. It opens, the sleigh bells. One other thing that I failed to mention in the first night is another thing is as soon as the door opened and there were sleigh bells, I also heard a pot fall to the linoleum floor. That was the first night that did happen. It happened again second night. So it's like a mirror image. It's the same thing happening 2 nights in a row, like exactly the same. And then I hear these loud footsteps as, you know, this thing, I can like see it in my mind's eye as like walking through the house, the cabin. It stops, it turns and begins walking down the hallway towards our room. And it's the same as the night before. I know it's not one of Nick's brothers. Like this is an intruder. Like I don't know what this is. And I'm horrified. The door opens up. And again, it's this tall figure that walks into the room. I see its like hips, if you will, like through the slot of the bed above me and mine. It's so tall, I can't see it. It marches past me next to the bed. And then again, same as the night before, you know, I'm praying it doesn't look at me and ruin my life. It turns away from me and bows into Nick and vanishes. And so it's really the same thing in a row, the same thing 2 nights in a row, and not comforting, like worse. It only made it more real that it had happened again. And I'm still laying there wondering where it went. It isn't like, oh, don't worry, yesterday it vanished. It'll vanish today. You know, like it was the same. It was like replay. And I, again, laid there, could barely sleep, eventually out of sheer exhaustion from snowboarding all day, barely sleeping. I did fall asleep. And then I woke up at a certain point, and again, I hear Nick's mom out in the kitchen. This time, that morning, when I got out of bed and went in there, I didn't care at all about being offensive. Didn't care in the least. I walked out there and I was like hysterical. Like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, please tell me your sons were here. And like, I just tell her everything. And the whole time she's looking at me, and she's a wonderful woman. She's so like motherly, so nice. She's just like, I could almost feel like she felt bad for me or something. Like she's listening to me. She's not dismissing me, but she's just letting me do my cathartic, like ranting about how terrified I am and what the fuck's going on here. I want to leave. And at the end of it, she's just like, John, it's really okay. It's just my husband. I heard him here last night. I heard him here the night before. It's fine. Like that's what I'm hearing from the adult in the house. And it was just like, this is not all right. And I remember on that morning, we have one more night at this house still. And it gets worse, actually. Somehow it gets worse. I was like, I want to go home. I just want to fucking go home. I don't want to be here. But this is a trip that I have looked forward. This is like the one big trip. Like my family didn't have a lot of money or anything. This was like a big deal to get to go do this big trip. This was awesome. And it was like all I talked about. And so the idea that I'd be calling my folks up, like, yo, drive to New Hampshire, pick me up and bring me home because I'm seeing ghosts in the cabin.
There's a fucking ghost.
Right? Like, it just felt like too. And then it also, it was like, I don't know how this will be interpreted long term. You know, am I being totally insensitive to the fact that I went here to support the family who's lost their dad, and I'm claiming a ghost scared me off? It was a lot. And I grappled with it. And I remember I talked openly to everybody, to the mom, to Nick, to Wolf. I'm like, I'm just going to stay. Like I was like openly saying that I wanted to get the fuck out of here, but I'll just stay. It's one more night. I'll stay with you guys. It is what it is. It was a weird morning. It was so weird because she's like almost reassured to hear me confirming what she thinks she's hearing. I don't even know. It was like good for her. She wanted to talk about this, and I didn't want to talk about it. And Nick, the son of the deceased, he's like totally doesn't want to hear any of it. And Wolf is like very scared now. He's like getting worked up by it. It was just a very weird thing. But anyways, we got one more night, and I'm like, God, just got to get through one more night of this awful experience. And so that day, after doing our weird breakfast routine, we found out, one, that the brothers were not going to be stopping by after all. Turns out, it didn't really matter, but they were not going to be stopping by. So that night, the one more night I had, I didn't even have like a thing to cling on to that could be the reason behind these sounds. But before Nick's mom drove us to the mountain that day, we made a very small pit stop at this woodworking shop that was near the cabin. She was picking up a new coffee table that they were going to place in the cabin at the foot of the stairs that led up to the second floor of the lofted area. And she just needed me and Nick and Wolf to literally lift it, put it in the Jeep. And so we go to the woodworking shop, we get this new coffee table, this beautiful wood coffee table. We put it in the SUV, we go to the mountain, we do our snowboarding for the day. And I honestly was so checked out, I didn't really care. I just wanted to get time to pass. I just wanted to be done. We come back from snowboarding, we get picked up, and when we get back to the cabin, Nick's mom had us offload this heavy coffee table and walk it in, and we put it by the foot of the stairs that led to the second floor. And then we went to bed, and I again instructed Nick and Wolf, like, stay awake, let me sleep, but they didn't. They fell asleep. I'm awake in the room by myself, and I'm just furious. That was how anger was the feeling I had. I felt so mad that, like, I'm in this position. How can I be in this position? What have I done here?
This is the third night.
This is the worst. And so I'm laying there, and sure enough, it's like 3 a.m, and I hear those fucking steps on the wraparound porch, and it's like I'm losing my mind. Like, I don't even know. There's no way to react to this. This is awful. And so I'm terrified. I'm looking at my stupid knife, and the door, it opens. I hear the sleigh bells. The pot falls to the linoleum. It's the third night in a row. This is like crazy. The footsteps come into the cabin. But this night, something new happens. When the footsteps reach that point where they would turn and come down the hallway to where our bedroom was, instead of that, they kept walking to the very back of the first floor of the cabin. And again, it's almost like in my mind's eye, I could like see exactly where they were moving in the house based on how loud the thumps were or whatever. And it was really actually surprisingly way more terrifying when I figured out, or when I could sense here, that this thing was not going to be following the pattern. As awful as the pattern was, come into the room, bowing to Nick, and I'm terrified all night. I didn't die at the end of it. Like, things were contained, but now it's like something new is happening. And it suddenly was like, this thing has the capacity to like sink into the ground. Like, what's going on here? And so the footsteps go past that turn point, and it goes to the very back of the first floor, and there's a pause. And then I hear the footsteps going up the stairs to the second floor where Nick's mom is. And so I hear the footsteps, and it's like basically right above us. And at a certain point, the footsteps just stop. And I spent the rest of the night laying there, looking up at the bunk above me, waiting for this entity to float through the ceiling and like come down to me. Because it bowed into the ground the day before. So it's like all night I'm just laying there so scared. This is the worst night of the 3. I didn't hear any more sounds after that. At a certain point, I must have dozed off again, because it's like I'm on fumes at this point. I wake up. It's super early. Earlier than the past 2 mornings I'd gotten up. It's probably like 4 a.m, and Nick and Wolf are still asleep in their bed. It's still pretty dark, but I can hear something out in the living space. And it sounded like Nick's mom, and it sounded like she was crying. Frankly, didn't fucking care. Just wanted to leave. Got out of bed, and I went out there, and it was like, I'm not even looking for explanations. I'm not looking to talk about this. I can just be done. I can go out here and we can just leave. And I go out of the hallway, and I look over to the kitchen where I expect her to be, and she's not there. She's over on the stairs, like leading up to the second floor, and she's definitely crying. And I look over at her, and before I can ask anything, she just goes, "John, come here." And she's standing over that coffee table that we had put at the foot of the stairs the day before. And I walk over to her, and she's crying, and I sense that she's not crying tears of sadness. She's happy. These are happy tears. And I'm getting ready to ask questions here, but she just stops me and points at the surface of the coffee table. And I look at the coffee table, and etched into the wood is the words, "I love you." And she goes, "I didn't write that."
Holy shit, dude. What?
And so I will say the conclusion to this story is, this ended my relationship with everybody in the story. This is it. That's the end of the relationship with these people. This was so traumatic for me. It was like, well, I'll just never talk to any of you again.
Holy shit, dude.
And I'm thinking, like, think of the answers for what could have happened range pretty much. It's like, okay, let's go through the exercise of perhaps Nick's mom in the state of grief that she is in, somehow picked up on that I had some sort of nightmare or whatever, and took it upon herself to pretend that she too had like seen a ghost or something, right? Mm-hmm. Why would you do that to me? One would be a question, but two, like, I didn't give up that I saw anything on that first morning. It isn't like I walked out and said, hey, last night I heard somebody walking around the cabin. Was it your son? I tried to ask as like diplomatically. I'm sure I had a look. I'm sure I looked scared. How could she have possibly thought, oh, I know what this is. He must have had a thought that if somebody was walking around the cabin last night, I'm going to capitalize on that and pretend that it's my husband. And it was so immediate that she agreed with me and said, that was my husband and it's okay. It's just, it doesn't mean it's not possible. In fact, if there's any rational explanation, it's that she, out of grief and sadness, did this to make it feel like her husband was still around. But even that, like, I don't know. I don't know if you could do it that quickly and that well. It's possible. It's certainly possible. But then it's like, what's the alternative? It wasn't me. Certainly wasn't me. And I'm the guy that sleepwalks. I'm the guy that has all the reason in the world to say, oh no, there's probably, this was my mind. But it's not. It was corroborated.
That is wild. You've never spoken to them again?
Wolf a little bit, Nick 0, his mom 0. Wow. I mean, the little bit is about the fact that I've told this story.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And it's funny, like the reason we cut ties, or I did, it wasn't malice. It was like, dude, we can't get over this.
Yeah.
This is not something I'm able to get over.
Dude, we've had some stuff happen.
Yeah?
Yeah, we had Tim, who's behind one of these cameras here. He was there for it. Elijah, he's upstairs. He was there for it. So before I did the podcast thing, I was like basically throwing shit at the wall to see what stuck because I was so tired of tactics. And I was just done with it. And so one of my ideas was, I know, we're going to do like this reality TV survival scenario series or whatever, right? So first one I did was Tim was there. Like I said, Elijah was there. Tim was one of the contestants. It was like, hey, you got $50 or $100 or something. End of the world's happening. We're going to Bass Pro, and you have to buy everything, that you would need to survive on a time limit. So we rented this cabin, this old like Civil War cabin out in this area called College Grove. It's like 20, 30 minutes from here. And, this is, Franklin, this area, this is front lines Civil War. There's lots of Confederate Union cemeteries around, lots of buildings where, that were shot up, blood stains on the floor, lots of ghost stuff around here. There's ghost tours all over the town. Anyways, we go to this old cabin, a little bit of a backstory. So it took my wife and I over a year to find a place to live here. And when we were moving up from Florida, we just kept getting outbid by Californians. This is like the big migration.
Oh, really?
And we just couldn't afford it. And so I looked at my wife and I was like, I'm getting tired of putting in offers on houses and getting outbid. Like, just the shit's getting depressing. This is our 7th trip up here. Let's just go get a cabin out in the woods, enjoy Tennessee for the rest of this trip, and then we'll go and find some place to move in Florida that's out of the city. So we go to this cabin, rent it. It's awesome. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's in this, cow pasture, like out in the rolling hills. Family owns it. It's an Airbnb. Family owns it. That's who knows? The farm has been in their family for generations. I'm like, this is pretty fucking cool. It's like one of those old school log homes, And I woke up and I woke up in the middle of the night and I just kept hearing this banging on the roof. And I'm like, what? Wake Katie up and I'm like, what is that? Nothing. She didn't hear anything. She's like, maybe it was a squirrel. I'm like, no, there's no squirrel that makes this sound on the roof. And and I'm like, all right, well, whatever. Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe I had a dream or something, but who knows? So I don't really think much of it. Fast forward a couple of years, we're out there for this event. We're doing the survival series. And so we set up this cabin and we put, the Vigilance Elite sign up and for some branding, and we're getting it ready to shoot the debrief because we're going to grab all the shit from Bass Pro, come back. They're going to present it. I'm going to grade the 2 contestants. And we're like trying to plug in the sign and we're plugging in these lamps and trying to build this, kind of a set. And none of the electrical's making sense, but it doesn't hit me. I'm like, that's weird. I plugged the sign in here. Doesn't work. Plug the lamp in. Does work. Plug the sign in over there. It does. And it's just weird electrical shit going on, but I don't really think anything of it. So we go out, go to Bass Pro. Bass Pro is probably an hour away. We do the exercise, come back. They're presenting all this stuff, like all the stuff that they bought with the budget. And we had only rented the Airbnb for what it was like for the day. And we're in the middle of this debrief. We're supposed to be out by 6 p.m. And I'm like, I'm facing the window. A similar cabin, sounds like very similar to what you were in. Everything, it's one big room, right? Kitchen's in the room, dining room's in the room, TV, fireplace. And then there's a spiral staircase that goes up to a loft. But the loft isn't enclosed. You could lean over the see downstairs. So it's all one big room minus the bathroom. We have this little table set up and we start hearing footsteps. Oh. And I thought the footsteps were outside. This shit's on camera.
Oh, really?
We're filming this stuff. There's a video up on our channel that shows this. And so you see me in the debrief and these guys are talking. And you just see my face all of a sudden, and I like go like this, and I'm looking out the front door, but I see I thought I saw somebody else's reflection, but it wound up being mine while I'm hearing footsteps, and you just see my face go like, what the fuck? And then the reflection turns into my reflection. But on the camera, so the footsteps were upstairs. I thought it was the porch. It was a wooden porch out there. It's past 6. I figure this is probably, the owners coming to say like, hey guys, we got a wedding coming up tomorrow. You got to get the hell out of here.
Oh my God. We
pull the camera footage. Then I look up. All 3 of us that are on camera all look up at the exact same time, and you hear these fucking footsteps. and I look at Tim and Adam, and I'm like, did you guys just fucking hear that? My wife was there. Elijah was there behind the camera. We had a marketer there that was behind. Every single person in the room is looking up going, what the fuck was that? We packed the shit up. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like right now, or fuck this. We're not even going to finish. Get out of here. So we load up all the camera shit, load up the microphones, put the furniture back. I can't even remember. Did we go upstairs and even look?
I had to go upstairs to get one of the lights.
He goes, yeah. So we pack all this shit up. Dude, I did not even want to look at the cabin because there's on the top in the loft, which is where like the bedroom is, where me and my wife were sleeping when I heard the banging on the roof. There's a little window and you have to close this gate. I'm like, I'm not even fucking looking in that damn window. I don't give a shit. I have guns. It's not going to kill whatever's up there. Like,
Oh my God.
so we hightail it back to my house, immediately pull the footage. I'm like, pull the footage. Let's see what that shit was. On the footage, if I remember correctly, you do not hear the footsteps. Do you remember this? Do you hear the footsteps? We have it. We'll pull it. I'm going to have a question. So I'm going to have both of you step outside. I'm going to bring each one of you in.
Upstairs.
And this fucking place is haunted as fuck. Every time there's a footstep, you can hear the static in the camera. So it'll be like,
God.
I call my best friend. We're all blown away. We're like, holy shit, there's a fucking ghost in there. And I call my best friend later that night and I'm like, hey, John, check this shit out. Listen to this. What do you think of this? I tell him the whole story. He goes, look, pull up the Airbnb, pull it up right now, and just see what the reviews say. And I'm like, oh, great idea. We pull up the fucking reviews, dude, and it is, don't bang on the walls, they bang back, don't show up after dark because the entire place comes alive. It was just review after review after review of people's haunted stories in that cabin. Haven't been back there since.
Holy shit.
Fuck
dude.
that. Like,
Dude, that's crazy.
I know. I could have swore I told you this. I may have told you this on the
No, I've
last
never heard
episode.
that.
Because I was like, we should do John's episode at that fucking cabin when you came here. But dude, yeah,
The
true
fact that there were
story.
those reviews, that's crazy.
It's wild, dude. When this comes, we'll put the footage in the episode so you
Wow,
can see
dude,
it.
That's
But
nuts. I'd love to see that.
yeah, but I believe in paranormal stuff. It
Yeah.
scares the shit out of me still today at 43 years old. So
That would be to feel like, oh, maybe it was something, maybe it was this, but then to see the reviews, that's what confirms your nightmare.
dude. Yep.
That's the thing.
I got more for you. I'll tell you.
I'd love to hear it.
I'll tell you tonight at the campfire session.
Yeah.
But well, hey man, I really appreciate all the
Yeah,
stories and it's good to get in the Halloween spirit, a
Hell
couple
yeah.
days
This was
beforehand. So thank you. Thank you for coming.
the SIG, dude. You kidding me?
Hey, let's go. Let's go burn it down real quick.
Let's do it. Thanks, bro. This is
Cool.
awesome. Thank you. Thanks, bro.
No matter where you're watching Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.